Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's performance is about to begin.
Hey everybody, today's episode, excuse me. Welcome to the world of sex. I am your host, Dr. Kaci, and today we have a special guest, Mr. Todd, or as he likes to be called, Max. He is a phenomenal person and has created some phenomenal things. And Todd, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, I've been lucky enough to get to travel the world for the last 20 or so years, and I've always been fascinated by cultures and subcultures, especially when it comes to subjects like sex and kink and those kinds of things. And I had the honor of meeting a dominatrix about 8 years ago that led me down this rabbit hole of finding out what that world was about, the world of kink and femdom, and it was just so fascinating because as much as I've had the opportunity to get to travel and see these things, I was sort of surprised at all this prejudice or the things that I thought her life was like, that I was wrong. And it just was a fascinating journey into that world of uncovering what this is like and why people like it and why it's becoming an increasingly popular thing. So it was a really one of the most interesting journeys into a subculture that I've ever had the opportunity to make in my 40 years of making films and documentaries.
So, just to be clear, you made a documentary on Kink. Well, the documentary was actually very full of to me, a lot of different things and a lot of perspectives. Can you tell us more about the documentary and what you kind of told us what made you create it? Um, Mentally for you, your experiences, how did that affect you making the documentary?
Um, well, my documentary Touch Kink led me into the world of mainly femdom, but then I started getting a better idea of why people are interested in kink. And I guess we all generally judge our lives or what we're interested in based upon our experience. And my experience maybe was more about male dominant kind of situations or more classical. And it opened me up to this world that, everybody can just define themselves the way they want. They build their own relationships. And I think the most important and powerful thing, it seems so obvious to me now, but that I learned was that, everybody gets to define their relationship and they
Mhm.
just have to have a lot of really open, honest conversations. I think that's something you're particularly good at let's put aside the nonsense and just tell me what you like and tell me, let's have a conversation, see if we can have some compatibility, have some discussions and negotiations, then move on to clear consent, knowing what you're getting yourself into, doing
Mhm.
whatever the heck you've decided to do as two grown-up adults, because you are grown-ass adults, or maybe three or maybe
Right.
four, depending on what the group is, I suppose.
Mhm.
And then taking care of each other afterwards, and it shouldn't be that revolutionary, but it's really baked into the kinky process because some of these things are a little dangerous, some of these things
Mhm.
are a little edgy. So it's more pronounced and more important that people go through those four very clear steps. And I structured my film that way too. I kind of like started the film as a negotiation, so to speak, with the audience. Here's the issues, here's what we're talking about, then leading into consent and what that means for different people. And then playing and then trying to take care of the audience afterwards, like how was that for you, kind of thing.
Mhm.
Roughly modeled after the process. But these are real people. This wasn't a Hollywood played by Scarlett Johansson. These are real people and real experiences. So it's a little messier than it would be if it was a Hollywood movie with pre-scripted. But it gives you that sense of why a bunch of people like this and how they do it and why they do it, just to give people an opportunity to peek behind the curtain a little bit. A lot of people are afraid of stuff they don't know. So they get to
Mhm.
see a few people, see what it's like. It helps them open up their own hearts and minds to these possibilities if they're interested. And if they're not, that's fine too. But yeah, that was my mindset, I guess, was just I always thought I was open-minded, and I found out I wasn't as open-minded as I thought, and now I'm even more open-minded.
Right. So when I created the show, The World of Sex,
Mhm.
it was really exploration of my own. I've
Hmm.
talked about sex for many, many years, as somebody who has been married and now divorced, and
Hmm. Hmm.
somebody who loves sex, but in marriage
Hmm.
didn't experience sex
Hmm. Hmm.
as
Hmm.
much as I thought that I would.
Right.
And so it made me start talking about sex to the point to
Hmm.
where I was like, okay, well, maybe I should
Hmm.
get a certificate in sex coaching. And then,
Right.
I waited a little while and eventually I got the certificate to be a sex coach. And to do that, you have to take a lot of classes where you have
Right.
to watch a lot of sex.
Yeah.
So, which was very interesting within itself, just listening to the stories of people, watching classes, being taught different things. And then for myself, it made me actually go out and explore. So I started, well,
Hmm.
my first lifestyle party, I was kind of
Hmm.
tricked. Well, I don't want to say
Hmm.
tricked into, I wasn't aware of what it was.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
just was invited to a pool party. And then it got
Hmm.
strange really fast.
Hmm.
So but that opened my mind to going kind of down the rabbit
Right.
hole a little bit and kind of
Right.
exploring. And it made me realize, even between um my exploration in physical person at different parties
Hmm.
and
Sure.
looking at Twitter, for
Hmm.
porn, or what we should call X
Hmm.
now, because
Hmm.
it has the most raw footage of non-professional porn stars
Sure.
on it. So it just allowed me to see that literally anything that somebody wants sexually, no matter how strange somebody else may think it is or how weird it may feel to want yourself, it is available. If you want to
Hmm.
try it for a little bit, if you really want to
Hmm.
pursue it permanently, no matter what it is, there is somebody else out
Absolutely.
there that wants it. But you have to be willing to kind of wait around and
Hmm.
see if you can match with the person that wants
Hmm.
what you want. So a lot of people think, well, it's just spiritual, or I need to just match
Hmm.
compatibility. Do we like the
Hmm.
same
Hmm.
thing?
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, if the sex chemistry isn't amazing,
Absolutely. Hmm.
then eventually everything else won't even matter, because if you're not having good sex, then what are you doing with your life?
Exactly. Absolutely. That's one
So
of the things
it
I love that
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say one of the things that I love the most about the kink community is that, it is roughly organized around particular types of activities.
Hmm.
So, let's say you're into feet, for example. That is a thing, that much about yourself, that's something particularly interesting. You could go to meetings and groups where you know everyone in that community. So it kind of like gets you closer to the neighborhood you want to be in.
Hmm.
Doesn't mean you're going to seal the deal or get the chemistry, as you said, but it certainly helps you get a little farther a little faster. And that's the thing, I think, why it's growing so fast is
Yes.
that you may not find exactly the right person, but you can get to the neighborhood fairly easily, and then
Hmm.
you have a better chance. And the other thing about it I love so much is that, contrary, I mean, you said I'm sure you've been to many lifestyle events or kink events, and the thing that I always stress to people that surprises them sometimes is that, at least in kink events, you're actually safer at a kink event where there's wild and craziness going on than you are walking into your local sports bar,
Listen.
because the idea of consent and clear negotiation is so
Hmm.
highly thing. You don't have to do anything. You can sit there and just, do knitting if you want. Well, other people doing crazy stuff, and nobody's going to care because it's
Hmm.
consent. Where you're walking to a sports bar and it might be, hey, oh, what's a
Well,
nice
well,
girl like
well,
you doing in a
see,
place like this?
here in Atlanta, the only time that there is an issue if there are too many men around and
Mhm.
not enough women. And if men
Exactly.
are just standing around and gawking and kind of like, oh, just trying to get a feel or a look or see, then it
Hmm.
becomes more uncomfortable. But yes,
Right.
absolutely right. You could be there and just, because I have participated as a voyeur. So I am
Hmm.
there and I'm
Hmm.
literally just seeing what's going on. Like, I've never been in this environment before, and there was never any pressure.
Absolutely.
Nobody
And
even
that's
approached me, and not in a bad way. It just, there was no like, It was
there
a
was no
very
pressure, I
environment.
think. It's like it's almost like people go, "Hello, my name is, are you interested in this?" And you go, "You," it's nobody like gonna, it's like a
Rope you,
buffet sort of
nobody is
thing.
touching
They'll
you, nobody is
yeah,
doing anything
exactly,
extra
exactly,
that you had
exactly.
not
Unless you
already said, okay, I'm ready. And you could be completely naked. And you could,
yeah,
you know, and
absolutely.
when you talk about it being different environments and different activities, I've gone to kink parties where it's just a chair, somebody getting tied down
Yeah,
to a chair, and everybody is kind of just observing. I've gone
absolutely.
to parties where people are we're being taught, being
Hmm.
bound, but
Hmm.
then you have people having tantric orgasm
Hmm.
experiences. I mean, literally some of these
Hmm.
experiences without being touched at all,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
you're seeing all these things. Then you have the
Yep,
rooms with all the toys and the tools,
exactly.
and you're not forced to do anything. But if you're
You're not, and
curious
you're
about
safer.
anything,
You're safer there, and you're able to experience more. And I think that's a really important message. It sounds like something you talk about a lot, and that's great because, I think a lot of people are just even afraid to enter the house that Kink made, thinking
hmm
that, oh my goodness, I'm gonna, get things are gonna happen, and I'm not sure if I'm ready for them. Not
I,
realizing
I
that you're
I think it's
actually very good place to start.
I
Because
think
people are
more
open
people
minded.
I
Yeah.
think more people are afraid of what people will think of them than being
Mm-hmm.
afraid of what will happen for them. Because a lot of people have this taboo mindset
Hmm.
as to where, like, if somebody sees me here, oh my gosh, like, hide my pearls, clutch my pearls, I'm
Right,
so
right.
dirty. And that, I think, is what catches people up more, and the judgment, the stigma behind certain type of things.
Right.
But it once you get beyond that, it's amazing.
Absolutely. Well, I think the biggest problem is so many people grow up with this crazy idea that there's one set of rules.
Hmm
There's this magic set of rules somewhere that we all need to
hmm
follow, and you either follow them or you don't. And
hmm
as you get older and a little more experienced, you're like there's no rules. Two adults can make up their own rules. It really
hmm
doesn't, maybe your mother or grandmother might have told you something out of love. I don't think often people realize that when they tell people to be shy, it's not that they're trying to be bad people. Sometimes they're just trying to
hmm
protect, but they give these sort of rules like we give children, don't climb that ladder. We're not going to tell you why, but don't do it because
hmm
it's easier than to explain, well, maybe it's teetering, maybe you're going to lose balance, maybe the floor is concrete. It's too nuanced to explain why you shouldn't. So they just say, don't do it.
hmm
And then some people never really get past that. Well, I was told that's naughty, I won't do it, and don't ask any more questions. People like yourself help them realize, well, yeah, generally we need to be cautious about lots of things in life, but
Mhm.
it doesn't mean we don't do it. Just means that before we go skiing, we learn how to ski. We
Right.
learn how to strap on some skis, and we don't jump on the triple diamond run first time with no helmet, going straight down with long skis and kill ourselves.
Right,
Whereas if you
right.
know what you're doing, please enjoy skiing. So it's that people that sometimes have this notion that they heard something, they feel bad about it, and it's almost this sort of treating them like their children. Just don't do that. Just don't do that. And like, well, I shouldn't be doing that. People will think bad of you. Yeah, people
Mhm.
will think bad of you if you're a bad person.
Yeah,
People aren't going to think bad of you if you're a happy person exploring your own sexuality and your own
right.
thing, but that's already getting a bit more nuanced than a lot of people
Mhm,
ever get
mhm,
to. So I think it's just a question of being okay with this duality, being okay with the fact that you can explore. And sometimes I think that's what this journey started for me is when I'm find myself a little uncomfortable, then I'm really fascinated. Why am I a little uncomfortable with women now sort of having all the power and women carrying the whips and men walking around naked or on little dogs on call? Why is this making me uncomfortable? I don't know why. Well, okay, because these guys seem to be enjoying this. It doesn't have to be for me, but then why should it make me uncomfortable? Like, then your mind expands. And I think that's what it boils down for people is to just get that opportunity to first see it, process, get past the whole clutch your pearls kind of
mhm,
situation. And guess what? They're going to be so rewarded by those explorations.
mhm. So, what was the most fascinating thing that you discovered in the process of making this film?
Oh boy, there was so much, but I think in the end, it really is the most fascinating thing was just how wide the spectrum was, how there was so many kinks and things that people do that I never even frankly heard of. Things that different practices and things that people were quite fond of that I had never even heard of, never even imagined these things existed.
Mhm.
That I think was pretty interesting. Like very interesting things people are into, like figging. I'd never heard of figging before.
What
Like,
is
oh,
figging? To explain
fig
what figging is.
figging is they'll usually take a large piece of ginger and carve it into basically a butt plug and then stick it in someone's bottom and then spank them. And then what happens is everything kind of closes down, the ginger kind of secretes out and gives a burning sensation. It was invented as a Victorian punishment, actually. It was a way they punished prisoners in Victorian times, but some people that are masochists really quite
Mhm.
like this sensation. And I'm like, okay, I mean, it's not for me, and I didn't even know this was a thing. But I know people now that quite enjoy that particular experience. Things like that. There's so many things like that where just like, okay,
So have you
like,
explored any of the things that you have filmed in your movie for
oh yeah,
yourself?
I mean, for sure. I was very fortunate during the making of the documentary to end up in a relationship with a very famous dominatrix. And I would always kind of curious what it would be like to be on the other end, to be the submissive guy. But I was very kind of like nervous about, having someone else, wield the whip or do these kinds of things. Because, again, you have to know what you're doing. But having the opportunity to really get to know this person, really trust this person, then find out from her peers that she was literally one of the most famous people in the world, it seemed like I'm never going to get a better opportunity to try this.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I had a 4-hour session where she kind of started with a gentle sort of tap on the bottom.
Hmm.
I'm blindfolded, and towards the end, it was like whips and stuff. It didn't feel anything different than tap, tap for 4 hours. But, she kept ramping up the implements and ramping up the pain, but because of her skill, it never felt more than tap, tap, tap. And when she
Hmm.
stopped, I finally knew what people were like. You feel this euphoria because your body, I guess, slowly adjusts to the pain. And as you're getting more, your body keeps you balanced. But when the pain stops, you're just like, ah. I've never tried heroin, but I'm pretty sure this is what it must feel like. It was like a pure, just like
Yeah,
just
yeah. Uh-huh.
undescribable, pure, just pleasure. And now I understand why people, go and have these 4-hour sessions with people that know how to do this stuff because it's not the kind of thing that anybody can do. This is someone that to 20, 30 years of skill to know exactly how to do it,
Hmm.
to watch your body. Like if your butt moves too closer, then that means you need more. Your butt moves away, it means just to balance getting that
Hmm.
perfect level of pain over a period of time to slowly get you up. That's real skill to do that sort of thing. And that's why, people go see professional dominatrixes, you know.
So, now that you've mentioned that you dated a dominatrix,
Mhm.
how was that experience dating someone that is a professional dominatrix?
In the beginning, I'll admit, and I was quite nervous actually, because to be honest, I didn't know exactly what was involved in her job at the beginning. Was she having sex with the clients? Was she not having sex with clients? What was like? I mean, I love this person. I cared a lot for this person, so I was, trying to prepare myself. But for all possibilities. But then getting to know her, building the trust, and having frank discussions about exactly what happened and didn't happen. It was an amazing experience, but it was a very unusual. It did make me a little bit nervous. So what's going to happen? What am I getting myself into? Um, she was very kind in the sense that she also we reversed roles, where I became her dominant, she became my submissive, but then we became more like switchy,
Hmm.
towards the end. So it was an amazing experience. It really changed my view, and I think I owe her a huge debt because she, had so much more experience and gave me the space to let me kind of slowly understand it a bit better.
That's awesome. So when I watched the film, there was one lady that really stuck out to me, that called her husband, I guess,
Yeah.
somewhere else. And so can you explain to me how she got involved with the film and kind of the outcome without spoiling. I mean, you can't really spoil it because that is just
Hmm.
one small,
Hmm.
very small segment in the series of events.
Well, a film is structured in three acts. And the first couple, I was just like, everybody was having a great experience, but most people were kinky. It was like, and I felt like it was becoming a little too one-sided. So I decided to try and find someone who really didn't think this was a good idea, someone completely outside of this world. And I had met this lady years before, actually, in India, of all places. And I just remember her being very honest, open-minded. She's like a traveler. She's willing to give it a shot, but
Hmm.
she was pretty strong in her opinions. And I thought, well, this is perfect. She's genuinely willing to give this a shot, and has a strong opinion. I was willing, if she'd gone either way with it, I would have kept it in the film. I sensed that she was having, spent so much time around dominant women, and understanding that there were certain types of women that were just naturally a little bit more dominant, and sometimes men would find them a little whatever, and other men would love them for it. I started recognizing she's probably a little bit more like the latter. She's probably a woman, and she said to me that some men find her a little aggressive. Some usually military guys. She's always found like military guys really kind of liked yes ma'am sort of, and she had good relationships with military guys. And I thought, she's a dom and she doesn't even know it. She's like kind of
Hmm.
got that natural sort of dominant thing, but I don't think she understands it. So I did have that in my mind that she might figure that out. Then put her in a course. She worked with a number of dominatrixes, tried the whole thing, and did think it was kind of weird. But then slowly started seeing it, slowly realizing what we've talked about, where she doesn't have to do anything she doesn't want to do. She learns about different ways people are turned on and different things that people like. I mean, we often make the mistake of thinking everybody's looking for an orgasm, where some people are just looking for a spanking. Some people might be looking
Hmm.
for other things. Like, sex doesn't necessarily isn't just about hide the salami. It can be about mind stuff. It can be massages. It can be deep emotional connections. It's just any meaningful connection. It isn't just all about hide the salami. So she learned that, and became increasingly aware that that was who she was, and she at the time was dating a military guy, and they were forming more of a relationship, and she realized she was a dom. They got married, and they have two beautiful children now. And
Oh, that's
you
amazing.
could tell who runs that family. I don't know. And I feel that he's literally like one of these SEAL Team Six types. Like
Mhm,
he's literally
mhm.
like
I mean, I think that in general, sometimes when you have control of and large responsibility all the time, you
hmm.
want to be able to um be dominated. You want to be
Absolutely.
able to just listen, shut up, and just but as a person that is very strong-willed, very determined, with a lot of ambition, and I do a lot of things. I take care of a lot of things. I feel like I'm in charge all the
Hmm.
time. When I get into a relationship, I definitely want to not be in charge. I just want to be,
Absolutely.
I want to be able to trust you so much
Hmm.
that I could just listen to whatever you say. I ain't got to worry about you doing nothing
Hmm.
crazy, sending me
Hmm.
down and so I get it. I totally understand.
Hmm. Yeah, I think you've obviously studied this more than most people, and you know a lot about this more than most people, but so you'll get this intuitive, but a lot of people have a hard time understanding that we're organic, we need the balance. If you
Hmm.
are too much of this, you might want a little bit of that. And it goes to
Hmm.
everything that there is a spectrum on here. A little too dominant, you might want to try submissive. A little, if you're feeling you're being over masculinized, maybe you want to be effeminized a little bit sometimes. If you're over, like we all have spectrums. I think I've heard Kinsey, I think, said something along the lines that, most people are somewhere on the spectrum between even gay and straight. So we all
Hmm.
have
Hmm.
everything in us, where our culture pushes us one way or the other way a
Hmm.
little bit, but
Hmm.
it doesn't change the fact that we're humans, and we go back and forth. And that's
Fluid.
just how it goes. We want a balance. We're
Hmm.
looking for a balance. And it's going to change at different times of your life. There may be a time in your life where you're interested in playing with this equilibrium, a time in your life you're willing to play with that equilibrium, but we are not digital. We're analog. Humans are
Right.
analog. So it makes sense to me. And I've heard people who are like powerful people that are making decisions when they're in like heavy bondage and they can't move. It's a vacation for them. because their mind goes, I can't do anything, therefore
Mm-hmm.
I can finally relax. Where if they're not tied down, they're like, well, I've got one more thing to do, one more
Yeah,
thing to do, one more
yeah,
thing to do, one more thing to
always.
do, one more
Mm-hmm.
thing to do. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
it's like I literally can't move. I guess I might as well relax. And it's like they're in a big leather bag looking all scary with headphones and all this stuff in your, and they're going, this is like a
Right.
vacation on the beach. That's the other thing I find fascinating about kinking. I'm sure you're aware, but I don't think was as clearly aware. You walk into a kink party, for example, let's say it's only spanking. You walk in, you see 12 couples getting spanked. You think, oh, I guess some people like spanking. The thing that you don't know is that every one of those couple is feeling something different. One
Mm-hmm.
couple might be a dominant man having his submissive spank him. One might be a woman that is literally having an orgasm as she's being spanked. Another one is actually feeling pain. She can't tell the difference, but it's just what's going on in the mind. It all looks the same. Somebody might be feeling
Mm-hmm.
pain. Somebody might be orgasmic. Somebody
And it
else
can
might be
still
feeling
be the same
humiliated.
expression.
It looks exactly the same to everybody, but to casual observer looking at these people, it looks like they're having the same experience, but they're not, because everything boils down to the mind. Everything boils down to, what's going on inside their head and what the dynamic is. It may the same activity means so many different things for different people, and the only way you can know that is to have those conversations and build those relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fascinating to me because normally we think what we think. Oh, I guess people like this because you see people doing that. You're not thinking how different it is for everybody,
Mm-hmm.
and why they're doing it and where they are in their life and where they are on their journey. With kink, I always think it's that, I have this sort of macro view that if you really want to understand it, just think about what that person is sort of turned on by in the moment, what their focus or their fetish is by the moment. Maybe it's feet, maybe it's sound, maybe it's orgasm, maybe it's a smell, maybe it's that person,
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's hair, maybe it's a feminine, whatever. What is their role at that?
Hi, I'm Dr. Kaci, not your typical clinical doctor. I am an ordained minister, but not your typical minister. I am also a certified life coach, love coach, sex coach, solution focused coach, transformation coach, and more. I have a whole lot of information that I would like to help you grow with. And I hope that soon I can help you be the best you that you can be. Confidence, spirituality, and purpose. That's wholeness, complete.
Time. Maybe they're thinking of themselves as more male, more female, more dominant, more submissive, more into pain, more this, more, whatever. And what's the sensation? Maybe it's orgasm, maybe it's pain, maybe it's humiliation, maybe it's just a warm hug, maybe it's intimacy, maybe it's punishment, But if you think about it as what are they focused on? Who do they see themselves in that time, and what sensation they crave? Then it's sort of a unified feel. You can figure them all out and start
Mm-hmm.
realizing everyone's different, because even though it's the same activity, it'll answer those three questions differently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's definitely true because because everybody has different experiences and different reasons why they prefer, like you said, whatever it is that they prefer. You just never know. And sex and kink are it's so much with it. It's not like one dimensional. It is very uh it's a lot because it's so many levels and layers to sex by itself without
Absolutely.
adding
Like,
kink.
I'm sure and it sounds like you can literally do a show about this, but I mean, when you say sex already, you're saying it's meaning different things to different people.
Right. Right.
A lot of kinky people, like, the house that Kink made has two sides. Under in that house is one room over here, which is BDSM, which actually 80% of the time has nothing to do with sex per se,
Mm-hmm.
according to its own practitioners. Again, you'd have to define what you call sex, but according to its own practitioners, the house of BDSM is not about sex. It's about discipline. It's about rope. It's about
Mm-hmm.
roles. It's about playing with pain and sensation. But sex is a sensation sometimes. Maybe that's where it'll factor in, but it's not about that. Where on the other side of the house that is kink is fetishism, where people, dress up in latex. Maybe they go to a swinger event. Maybe they dress up in this way and go that. And it is usually those community, 80% of it is about about sex. At the end of this, we're dressing up in latex, we're dancing, we're having fun, and we're going to shag.
Yeah,
This
that's
is,
the point.
you know,
Yeah.
so it depends on what community that you're talking about in the house that kink made. And then it also depends on what you describe, what you're actually defining as sex, because that means different things. Is a deep, intimate conversation or where you're hugging with someone, if you're naked with someone and you're just touching each other, is that sex? I would think it is, but some people might not say it's not.
Right, right.
Spanking someone's naked ass and stimulating them that way, is that sex? Some would say it's not. Some would say it is. It depends on, what's your definition, because that's also the thing where people get confused. What do you mean by sex when you say
Hmm.
that? Are you talking about, hide the salami? Are we talking about anything else? Because if that's all you're talking about, where Hitachis are still fine and spanking is still good, then okay,
Right.
sure, we'll do that non-sexual stuff.
Right. And see how long it lasts, because for most people, at the end of kink there is sexual gratification. Again, depending on what you define sex as,
Right.
because the act in itself is, for some people that is the sexual gratification that they are seeking from it.
Yeah.
So navigating the film industry in adult film, how has that
Mhm.
been? What has been the most trying thing with that? And how do you come about getting um, those people that seem less open to be more open-minded to receiving your work?
Well, my film isn't an adult film. It's PG rated. There's a little bit of TNA, but it's not. It's aimed at the general public, and it's been a mainstream film on mainstream television. So I haven't really had that experience of knowing what that would be. It is tougher now, I would say. A film about kink for the Americans might as well be seen that way
No,
sometimes, though, because
here
it is
in
hard.
America, it's definitely more. I mean, not because of what it contains, but the content.
Subject matter. Yeah, no, I
Yes.
agree. I think in North America, you're right. A lot of the film festivals. I was in a number of film festivals in the States. I actually won the Atlanta Documentary Film Festival. Um,
Congratulations.
but it was hard to a lot of American festivals were, because they couldn't see a difference. Where in Europe, it's on German TV, it's on Italian TV.
Right. It's normal.
They're a little bit more open about these conversations, and it's not porn or adult film is often considered, strictly for gratification kind of thing, not educational. This is definitely an
Hmm.
educational film, but yeah, the conversations around kink are always a little more difficult in the States. Any country that was seriously worried about Janet Jackson showing her nipple always makes me
Right.
wonder. You know what I mean? It's like you should just all say thank you. Anyway,
I mean, yeah, it's first off, it's Janet Jackson, but then
yeah,
it's a nipple. Like, come on,
yeah.
people. Like, we can see
I
men's
hope.
nipples, but women's nipples, that's where you draw the line.
Yeah, well, I honestly hope most of the people have at least saw them when they were kids. Babies, come on, maybe they didn't see enough. I don't know, but I think that's actually a really interesting subject. I thought about that a lot lately. Why is that? Why does like breastfeeding or these things make people uncomfortable? And I think it's because they can't they want to over sexualize everything, and that is not that is a beautiful motherly thing to do, and you should be able to treat it as such. You shouldn't be suddenly going to this, oh my god, there's a pair of boobies, oh
So,
you know
my theory is around sex in general is that if you are overstimulated, then I mean, anything sexual or anything naked is you don't pay it any never mind. But when you are underexposed to um
Mhm.
sex, nudity, anything surrounding the body, personal image, then you
Mhm.
become overstimulated with it.
I don't know how to
So
process it.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So it's like
Makes
a
sense.
person that may have saw titties when they were a kid, and a little bit of ass when they was a kid. As they get older, when they see titties, it's not like, oh my God, look at those
Hmm.
titties.
Hmm.
It's more
Hmm.
like, okay, like no big deal.
Hmm.
But if you're not seeing titties on a regular basis, if everybody is,
Hmm.
I have to cover up. If
Right.
everybody
Clench
is
the pearls
hiding,
thing. Mhm.
yes,
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, I
then
think so. I think
seeing
you're right.
any amount of breast is like, oh my God, I can't believe she's showing that. We don't show that. Why would
Right.
you? So it's not even the fact that she's breastfeeding, nourishing
Hmm.
the child on the bosom.
Hmm. Hmm.
It is more so because we've been shamed about
Right.
nakedness.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Especially when you have a society that's 95, let's say 95 to 90% Christian, and
Hmm.
Adam and Eve had to
Hmm.
cover up, and now it's a sin to be exposed. When everybody think that it's a sin to have skin showing, to be
Hmm. Hmm.
exposed in any type of way, then it
Hmm.
makes it shameful to see anybody's skin. So if we lived in a place that were a little more of a nudist place, or a little
Hmm.
bit of nude friendly, then it would be no
Hmm.
big deal because you're used to seeing it. But when you're not used to seeing it and you see it, it's like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
No, it's true. I mean, you places the first country to buy my film is Germany. In Germany, there's it's not uncommon to go to the park and there's people, businessmen and people go to the park, take off all their clothes, sit on the park bench, eat their food naked, put their clothes back on and go to the business. It's big, it's part of their body positivity culture that they've had forever. As an American, North American, you're like,
I'm sure
What just
they're
happened here?"
terrified. Uh-huh.
They're just like a bit confused. Is what's going on here? Is nobody going to arrest you? What?
Yeah.
This is
Hmm.
just,
Hmm.
they'd be calling the cops. So yeah, I think you're right. I think it is probably what you grow up with and the culture. I also have often wondered if, obviously America is the most powerful nation on earth. Isn't part of the way they're motivated is to keep them a little repressed and a little violent? You
Yeah,
know,
it
because.
definitely is what I've noticed as of recent is that we're we, not me, but most people here are kept in a state of fear and terror,
Mhm,
and shame also,
mhm.
because it's easier to control you when you are
Absolutely.
fearful of what's to come next.
That's why, religious groups had always used shame over the year. I grew up
Mm-hmm.
Catholic. I mean, shame, be shame about thing about everything, and it was a very powerful way to sort of motivate you or control you. And I think it is a lever of power that hasn't been given up yet, which is ironic because it's still used to sell. An advertising executive said to me once, and it was interesting. I thought about it, I was like, every single ad is basically using sex. What it's saying
Mm-hmm.
is buy this and you might get laid. Buy
Uh-huh.
this and you'll be a better person. Buy this, you're going to be prettier. And every single bit of advertising is kind of teasing sex in some way that you will get some if you buy this, a car, a shampoo, whatever it is, but you never can actually get it because then the system would collapse. But we can keep using it to make you buy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because the reality is, if you actually had a lot of sex, and we're really open about this, you probably wouldn't need to buy as much stuff. So it's
Mm-hmm.
actually like being too sex positive is actually probably bad for capitalism. We want you to be a little repressed, so you keep buying things, hoping you might get some.
Right, 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 right. And if it's driven, if everything is driven of a sexual nature, you keep people naked in front of everybody, then yeah, you're definitely going to be gawking, especially for those that are
Mhm,
shy, those that
mhm,
are busy and don't have
mhm,
time to even think about the enjoyment of life. So when you think
mhm,
about strip clubs, you think about all these
mhm,
things that exist,
mhm,
that some people are ashamed to go, but other people find themselves
mhm,
almost addicted to the atmosphere.
mhm,
And the spectrum is so complex when it comes to the nature of body positivity, sex positivity, and acceptance of just life. Because as humans, we're wired to want sex.
mhm, mhm,
Our body actually needs it for
mhm,
the activity of it, the
mhm,
functioning,
mhm,
and people don't realize that, and then are literally shamed for um almost everything here. I
mhm,
mean, it's nothing that you can do between religion, society, and then now with social media, the immense judgment of anything that is
Hmm.
not exactly what's like you or what you're used to, it is
Right.
insane.
Which is again why I love the kink community so much. I'm not saying that it's a magical group of particularly enlightened people, but it is a magical group where it's more likely that you will find more enlightened individuals, or at least people that are willing to have conversations, and other people would go, "Oh, we can't talk about that. That's not
Mhm,
polite."
mhm,
There's
mhm,
whole organizations of groups dedicated to talking about whole subjects that, people get together and they talk about something that nobody wants to talk about because they want to talk about it. But at least you can feel seen, you can have a conversation, you can learn how to do it safely, or
mhm,
have a real, you can get past the don't, like we're talking, like I said at the beginning, I have this sense the society treats us like children. Just don't do that. We're not going to tell you why, but don't. And sometimes there is good reason. So you need to have those conversations. So you find a group of people that all want to do whipping each other, for example. And that is fun for some people, but you better know what you're doing. So you got to get past the don't do it and get around people that enjoy it and have conversations about how to do it safely, how to make these things happen, why people like it, different techniques, you know. And I love that fact that you can hang out with people that are more open-minded to have these conversations in the first place. Sometimes, and I sort of address this in the film a little bit, people think people that are into kink might be mentally damaged a little bit or a little
mhm,
crazy, because if you are going to play, you tend to have to be very honest very quickly. There's no point in me hiding anything. I'm not, if I have PTSD around the sound of a crack or an explosion, I need to tell you right away.
mhm,
I'm not going to
mhm,
wait till 5 year, the 12th date before I tell you these things,
mhm,
because we're going to play. So it does seem that because you're having discussions about your issues, your mental health, much faster because you need to.
mhm.
So it seems that these people are crazy, but really they're just more open and honest, and they're willing to have these conversations without being shy. So now I don't particularly like hanging out with people that aren't kinky, or at least have some kinks, because they're generally not as open-minded. And even if you don't have to have the same kinks, even just people that have something, they're willing to, if they should, and again, they're not all perfect, nobody's perfect, but they're more likely to give you the time and space to talk about what you're interested in. And they might even say, well, actually, you should go talk to this person over there. You guys might get along really well because you have similar interests, rather than just never getting to speak of these things, or never feeling the space. There's no one holding the space for you to ever even go, well, you know what I kind of like. And that was what the femdom world was for me. I didn't realize there's a whole world of, people that appreciate super dominating women, and this was their whole gig. It was like, okay, that's interesting. So it's fascinating to see all these worlds.
It really is. It it's like what Forrest Gump says, you really never know what you're gonna get when you open up this box of
Yeah.
chocolates. Uh,
That was a great line.
I am just fascinated. I was fascinated by the film. I think more so because I've gone into these environments and I've seen it firsthand in a lot of cases.
Mhm.
So to hear the educational tool behind what I've seen, it is very kind of heartwarming because, some subjects here in America just aren't talked about. And even when doing a show like this, where I literally ask people about their sexual fantasies,
Mhm, mhm, mhm,
their sexual activity, how they
mhm,
get into
mhm,
sex, or into the sex that they like.
mhm,
And it is intimidating sometimes for myself because um I share stories. It's not mostly about how I've gone to these sex parties, the
mhm,
different
mhm,
things
mhm,
that I've seen, the things that I've
mhm,
tried or will be willing to try, the things
mhm,
that interest me about this.
mhm,
And it is this world of sex is like literally everything to me because it's
mhm,
so vast, it's so full, and I've learned so much again from the videos as a sex coach and becoming a sex
mhm,
coach,
mhm,
experiencing these environments as some of the safest places that I've ever been. Safe not just because Nobody's carrying guns to kink parties. Nobody's coming to a kink party wanting to fight or argue or anything like that. Now, let me give a disclaimer, because if you're going to a kink party and people are partnered or coupled and there has not been a discussion on their boundaries, then there may be some ruffled feathers if something gets going too fast,
Absolutely. Yeah.
before they can address it. Now, here in Atlanta, they have a lot of sex clubs in which I had
Hmm.
yet to explore, but
Hmm.
being able to discuss these matters openly like this,
Hmm.
and consciously
Hmm.
releasing the episodes for other people
Hmm.
to hear,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, it's a little daunting, but it's also very thrilling because I know that I'll be liberating a lot of people who
Sure.
have catch ups and hang ups and shame and related to sex and what's
Right.
available. And everything is available. Like, so many things
Absolutely.
are available and here, and there is no shame when you really enter environments where sex is not a big deal. Now, in these situations, people are not always careless. There are people,
Hmm.
these environments have a lot of structure.
Hmm.
They have a lot of rules for it to be a kink environment. There are a lot of rules. So there is a place where you can find comfort,
Hmm.
peace, and great exploration. I really recommend trying at least one kink event in a person's lifetime, just to kind of open
Absolutely.
them up and free them mentally of all of the hangups that come from being, especially in the United States, in a society
Mhm.
that sex and kink and anything outside of the perfect box is like,
Right.
oh my gosh.
Hmm. Absolutely. I mean, that was the purpose of Touch Kink, really, is just to give people a little pink and a peek into a world that they may or may not have know existed. And if they did know existed, maybe they had a lot of preconceived ideas what that was going
Mhm.
to be like. Just make them feel a little bit safer, make them understand what it is, and that's all I really want to do is just to wake people up to the possibility this exists. There's more and more people into it. I've seen statistics between 30 and 45% of people are curious. So it's a massive number of people that are curious. I mean, the 50 Shades of Grey is still the best-selling book in the last 10
Yes.
years. It was a terrible example of kink, but it was showed that there was a curiosity about what that was all about. So to give people that a little bit more information and maybe, encourage them to give it a go because you have one life.
Yeah.
And you deserve to be happy. And I'm sure you've
But
probably used this quote a million times, but Oscar Wilde once said that everything is about sex.
yeah.
Everything's about sex, except for sex, he said. Sex itself is about power. But
Mhm.
anyway,
So are you working on any new films surrounding the
yeah.
topic of kink?
Well, I'm doing a 10-part series now for an American streamer on sex and technology.
Hmm.
I've believed, and the more I got into it, I realized that I mean, sex, again, get a whole definition of what sex is, but for me, sex is just something that really excites you.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think Mozart, when he was composing, probably was almost orgasmic when he got the right
Hmm.
combination
Hmm.
of keys.
Hmm.
It's something that just drives us, has incredible power to attract us to something and gives us great pleasure. That's my definition. And I think most of the great inventions and most of the things that have happened in the world were done by people with this. During the research for my film, learned that Leonardo da Vinci was arrested for crimes against nature, but he was saved. Alan Turing, the inventor of the computer, was gay and kinky and was unfortunately chemically castrated for it. Pretty much anybody that's ever invented anything was already thinking outside of the box. And these people were incredibly passionate about whatever they do. And I find that that passion has driven technology, which has driven more passion, which has driven technology. And at its
Hmm.
core, that is what it is to be human is we are attracted to something and we make something and we're attracted to something and make something and that fascinates me and I wanted to kind of drive home this point that I'm starting to believe is that not only should we accept like people go oh we want to accept LGBTQ we want to accept we're tolerant we're all this I think we should actually be encouraging diversity. we should actually help people be even more diverse, because in the end, diversity and our sexual interests and our activities is a creative act. And those creative people are going to invent the future. It's going to be climate change. It's going to be a kinky person that figures out something. All the big challenges we're doing technologically, or things that we have to deal with as a culture, I almost guarantee it'll be kinky, liberated people that are going to come up with those ideas. And we want to be a strong nation. We want to be a strong leader in the world. Let's encourage people to find those pleasures, find those things that make them excited, because those people will invent the technologies that will save the world. And
Hmm.
that it's not going to be a country, an authoritarian regime where everybody's in lockstep together, because that's the old days. We don't need a bunch of soldiers to take bullets. We need inventions of drones. We need new technologies. We need things to save this. The strongest country in the world, even militarily, is going to be the most diverse country in the world. And I think
Hmm.
America has to start realizing that, and Europeans are, I mean, and I love this sort of how diversity and sex and passion builds technology. It always has. And we have to realize that it's not only the right thing to do to encourage diversity, it's the smart thing to do,
Hmm.
you know?
I definitely agree with you there. So, can you tell everybody, of course, if you allow, I'll provide the link for the film, in the caption of this. But can you tell everybody where they can find the film?
Just dropped out. Yeah, just drop Touch Kink into any Google. It's available on Kinema, Amazon. It's going to be available in other projects. It's different depending on where you are in the world. So the easiest thing to do and the smartest thing to do is go to my website, Touch Kink, and you put your email into my mailing list, and it automatically knows what part of the world you're in. So it'll send you information. You're in Germany, it'll tell you about the German broadcasts and in the German language. If you're in France, so the easiest thing to do is just drop Touch Kink into your Google, touchkink.com, put your email into my mailing list, you'll get it. Failing that, if you drop it in, you'll find multiple places where you can watch the movie either in cinema or via video on demand.
And how can our listeners and viewers find you?
Touchkink.com again. That just touchkink.com. That's going to be my thing moving forward.
Do you have social media?
Yeah, my film company is called Seven Journeys. So Seven Journeys, is a film company. I can send you the links and stuff. Um, yeah, Seven Journeys on Instagram, Seven Journeys on Twitter. I'm just getting going on the whole TikTok thing. I haven't quite figured that one out. I need to find someone who's like 16 to explain it to me. Uh,
Yeah,
'cause I used to be so I
I
used to be
I
so good at
used to
that
be
stuff.
so tech savvy, but when it comes to TikTok, it's just too much going on for me.
It's Even Instagram, at one point on Instagram, I had like 50,000 followers when I first started because it was about
Hmm.
photos. And then I didn't pick it up for like 10 years. And now I'm down to like 8,000, and I get back in and it's totally different than it used to be.
It
You
is
know,
definitely a lot
eh,
different than it used to be. You're not seeing anything in chronological order. Everything is just
mhm,
like all over the place now.
yeah.
But I am so happy that I was able to watch your film and that we were able to discuss all things kink. It was great having you on the show.
Thank you.
Do you have any final words or advice for our viewers?
I think you probably cover a lot of it, but life is short. Everyone gets a life, but not everybody lives. Live, don't be afraid. Don't let people hold you back. I mean, don't be stupid, be safe and
Have safe
educate
sex.
yourself. Have safe sex, whatever that means for you. But at the same time, don't be afraid. We're all so bloody shy. I was shy for a period of my life too, and I would just wish I'd gotten started a little earlier, because it's a beautiful world. And don't stop yourself from doing things. Be smart, but give it a try. Explore these things, read books, watch all your other podcasts. I'm sure there's lots of valuable information
Mhm.
there. Educate yourself and just do it. Give it a go. You'll be amply rewarded.
Well, that is the end of our episode. With that closing remarks, what else can I say? It was a great having you on the show. Until next time, everybody.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kaci, Dr. Kaci. Welcome to Speaking Freedom. We are happy to have you, and we hope that we are able to help you in every way possible. Have a good evening. If you've enjoyed this video, like, share, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. New episode every Friday.